Hi everyone. Today I'm back with an interesting video regarding some tools for thinking, regarding some loophole kind of logical arguments, fallacies, and we're just gonna face them head on. One of the arguments I've heard from one of the many apologetics regarding a different topic, but I'm gonna use that here as well, is that if actually it was something wrong, if there was an issue, or if it was actually a really bad act, then the Quraysh of Mecca or the Kuffar or basically the opposition would have used that as an argument. This is in regards to, for example, the topic of age, regarding Aisha's marriage. This is in regards to that topic. But I'm going to use that for several other topics because I'm going to make an in-depth analysis of Aisha as well, a psychological analysis. Watch out for that video. So in this video, I'm going to really just face head on this argument or this fallacy that they have that, you know what, if this was really an issue or a topic, then, the opposition would have said something years ago in that time. So, you don't have to think about it, like close back your brain and like stop, worrying yourself over these things. We've thought that all out for you, so you don't have to think. And I think that's like the big loophole because let's go one by one. The first thing is, let's look at the things that they did actually bring up. It's not like you took that seriously either. The opposition that they did bring up, did you take that seriously? So let's look at the first opposition that they did bring up. The first opposition they brought up was that Quran is not some miraculous poetry. Okay, Muhammad did not win some poetry contests or anything like that of that sort. Neither were they just like falling at his feet, which he would have loved, but that didn't happen. Now, I would like you to think about that because this is their Arabic, this is their era. These words, these things are supposedly magical for them, yet somehow it's not. They're not convinced. They're not like tripping over themselves by how amazing and magical or poetic or like beyond this era, the most wonderful things. There are far better poets, even in that time, is that some of the people who did not have or did not like what he was saying, they gave it back to him in poetic style, in a very nice and, like respectable way. So you won't hear that mentioned. But here, you people are, of course, neither is this your language, neither is this your time, neither the people you're trying to convince do care or actually know anything about this language, but you're here, hailing this amazing poetry book like, oh my God, it's a miracle, this is the most advanced linguistic miracle Arabic, the poetry, this, that, uh yeah, that's the argument that falls flat too. Like, this is not your book, and neither is this your language. Unfortunately, I even want to say that I do know Arabic. I actually have some grasp, and like I have studied all this Quran and Arabic. I don't even see it, but you people who don't even know Arabic want to just jump up and be like, oh no, it is. So no, that's the first argument. Let's come back to more society aspects of what happened then. So they're trying to ask like if actually this was a bad situation, marrying a young child would have been really bad. Let's address that question. I will go more in depth, as I mentioned in the video analysis as well. But let's give you a taste of that. Yes, that's true. It wasn't a big deal. It wasn't a big deal. There were a lot of customs. It was the norm. But using the loophole of, well, it was the norm, so it's okay. And then now he's breaking some norms, so now this is really great, right? Like, that's your big argument for Muhammad, that he's breaking so many norms. He's the best of the best. He's the best human being, best character for all time. So we are again faced with that question that, if it was the norm and the Arabs didn't question it, well, the Arabs, Quraysh didn't question a lot of things. They didn't question slavery either. Slaves, male, female, there's no age of consent of marriage. There is also, in fact, the one big amazing thing that they like to, keep reminding everyone is that, yeah, he actually stopped burying infants. So they actually thought burying infants was okay too. Maybe it's not the best thing, but it wasn't illegal, right? So there you go. Are you really basing your level of ethical morality or level on like what the other Arab norms were? So there were a lot of Arab norms, you could have kept some and broken some. And the question that we keep asking is that he did not break these norms, he accepted them. One of the norms that they think is such a big norm that he did not break, which we don't really know, is like he never drank alcohol. Alcohol is the worst thing, worse than slavery, worse than like pedophilia, worse than anything, multiple polygamy. That's like the worst thing, alcohol. So that norm he completely abolished slowly, or, whatever. He himself like just naturally didn't have that. But the other norms, he chose to keep them and partake in them. So then I think the whole question here is, why did he choose to keep those norms? We do know they're norms. We do know he's not introducing something new. They were the practice of the day. But what we're questioning is that then you are not the best moral authority here, are you? Because we do know these things are actually terrible and against humanity crimes. Why are we calling you the best example and moral authority then? That's the question here. The other point I want you to remember is that in Islam, actually, this is post Muhammad's revelation, Medina, we are now learning more about rules. So Muhammad actually has slaves, right, that he keeps. And as you now know, there's really puberty, whatever is like age 9, 8, whatever years old, for marriage or like having intercourse. But we never really explicitly see that in any hadith regarding slaves. So you can imagine what was going on with slaves, their treatment, how you are, using them. And slaves, I mean by people who were captured, kidnapped during wartime looting. The whole, you had the buying and selling in Mecca, Arabia. That's how they were conducting their trade. But now you have actually captured through war. So this is the major sins that most Muslims can't seem to figure out. Like, not only are you sacrificing, innocent lives, just attacking people, but now you are kidnapping and essentially raping girls and women. That's like the hard truth that they cannot swallow. They're like, well, how is that norm accepted and even like glorified, and we still have that sanctioned? It's not abolished because, we have sort of Islam sort of outgrew it. No, it is abolished because of different, it's like modern time humanitarian evolution of our ethics and our evolution. We have not abolished this because of our religion, if that's what you're trying to, imply. But that's what most PR Muslims are going to try to like keep holding up the band. No, we have abolished, we have taken down this, and now we have such a great Islam. Like, isn't that, it was like Islam had a hand in abolishing slavery, which is such a lie. They have taken a lot of lives and slaves in the name of holy war, which is not a major sin. It simply could have been a much peaceful, if you really want it to be. They badly wanted to be peaceful. They want to call it peaceful religion, but it wasn't. It was a sacrifice for power, to expand, to forcibly convert. You had no other option to either convert or die. And then the women captured slaves that's what's going on with them. That's their life. Going back to, this is post-Islam. So a lot of people kind of forget, like, what, Muhammad didn't have slaves before? That's a good question, right? That's a loophole that they don't want to really examine. But yes, he had slaves before. His wife Khadija had slaves to do her trade work, her housework. That's how they were functioning. If you want to go back to that history of like, Khadija sending messengers through slave girl to like for the proposal, to, get more information, accompanying him on his trade caravans. So yeah, there were slaves in and around him. They did have. Who is to say that he never had a female sex slave before? Can you say that with 100% accuracy? No. We can't. That part of history is completely brushed over. We will never hear of those like complete stories of what actually happened before. I want you to think about, is that really true? If somebody actually raised any opposition or question or opinion, how were they actually treated? I mean, you have enough hadiths of how they were actually, or like, stories of how they were treated. So are you really that surprised? There is a version of a slave girl by one of the men, blind men, who said something about the Prophet. Now, mind you, she's a slave woman who had children with this other man. Slave woman, I wonder what her story was. She was probably captured from one of the war bounty. Her husband, her children, her family, her kids, anybody around her was probably killed, captured. Her family is also slaves. And she was slandering the Prophet in front of this man. And I think the second time he takes a dagger and he stabs her. Simple as that. So that's the outcome of anyone who talked bad or said anything in retaliation to his actions. Let's think about what is propaganda. This propaganda that you're seeing of Islam is 1400 years of male scholars lovingly putting up propaganda about how amazing and best of the best and the most highest ethical morals of this person, Muhammad, right? But are you sure? Are you really sure? Deep down, do you really believe this is all true? This is not like complete propaganda and absolute crushing of anything or questioning or even dubious or slightly misleading or questionable behavior is not brushed up, completely changed or twisted or completely called weak hadith. That's how they dismiss anything. It's just like they think they're in some kind of court and they're like, no, this material is inadmissible. This evidence is inadmissible because we said so. But sorry, we here actually do examine evidence and we are not going to believe that. That's what, people like myself, Muslims, anywhere around the world, questioning, rational, that's how they look at it. They want to think and they want to question. They don't want to be blind believers. They don't want to be blind cult members. For all you know, it could have been a Chinese book that came down and he said that this is a miracle, and you all lot today, this generation today would have also been proclaiming this miracle. Despite the fact that it's not your language, it's not your country, it's not your tradition, it's not your culture, but because that's what you believe and that's what your forefathers believe. That's the family that you were born into. One thing I find very weird, and I think early on in my studying and questioning, is I saw how much forced story narrative there is about how amazing and perfect he is, free of sin, never committed any sin. He's so perfect, the highest ethical moral being. So that really, you begin to start questioning, is that really true? Or is this just again, mullah fantasy that they want to sell us, right? That, oh no, Muhammad, let's, because we have made all these praise and qasidas and everything, so now we can't say anything. We've done all this amazing glorified basket of glorification. We can't just simply say that, yeah, he might have made some mistakes, or we don't know what he's doing, or I don't know why he did that. They're not going to go and say that. The best defense they have for all these heinous crimes is that it was the norm. It was the norm. I mean, if Muhammad actually had buried one of his daughters too, they would have said it was the norm. It was the norm. In line with that thinking, we can also say that, the Quraysh or any other people didn't actually condemn slavery or female slaves or capturing of slaves. So does that make it right? I ask you today this question. Does that make it right? They didn't condemn that either. So what are we supposed to do with that information? I guess that must mean it's right. So, okay, female slavery, rape, that's completely fine. You can buy them, sell them. That was the norm. One last point I want to bring up is the idea of crazy standards that Muslims have adopted today, just showing you to how the extreme fanaticism they have. For example, the burning of the Quran and the man Salwan who was murdered because he burned the Quran. I think it's time to point out, didn't Osman burn all the Qurans too? He consolidated one Quran that he wanted to keep and he burned all the other rest. I wonder how many Quran those were. He burned all of them. What? They weren't the word of God? Aren't they not holy pages? Did they not have the name of Allah and Muhammad on them? He burned them. Is anybody going and killing him? Are they all attacking and how dare you burn these other Qurans? You could have just preserved them. There must be a proper way of disposing of them. What is this nonsense? Just stop riding this crazy wave of fanatics and use your brain and mind. You can even read the history that has been approved. The history that is approved by your mullahs has shown you that Osman burned Quran. So what are you going to do? That's your history. So with this questions and some food for thought, I'm going to end this video here and I'll see you guys in the next video. Stay tuned. Bye.